Did you know that more than 800 soldiers were left floating in the ocean, surrounded by sharks? I was one of them. My name is Edgar Harrell, and I was the last Marine survivor of the USS Indianapolis disaster. I was born in Kentucky in 1924, and since I was a child, I knew I wanted to serve my country. In 1943, I joined the Marine Corps. I had already faced tough battles in the Pacific, but nothing could compare to what I was about to live through. In July of 1945, our ship had just completed a secret mission, transporting parts of a new weapon that would unknowingly change the course of the war. The task was a success. That night, as we sailed back, everyone was happy. We were finally going home. The air was warm, the sea calm, and many of us slept on deck under the stars. But just after midnight, hell caught up with us. 2 enemy torpedoes hit the ship. The first tore the bow apart, the second ignited the central compartments. In less than 12 minutes, the Indianapolis vanished beneath the waves. There was no time to send a distress signal. I jumped into the water covered in oil. The sea was burning and the sky was filled with smoke and fire. Of the nearly 1,200 men on board, about 900 survived the explosion. We thought we were lucky, that the worst was over. We were wrong. The first day we tried to stay together. The sun burned our skin. The salt opened our wounds, and the water reeked of fuel. At night, the cold pierced our bones. Our lips cracked, our bodies went numb, and every muscle trembled from exhaustion. In the middle of hunger and fear, one of the men found a can of meat floating nearby. We thought it was a miracle. We opened it, but the smell mixed with the oil in the water. Minutes later, we saw movement below the surface. The smell had attracted sharks. We threw it away before it was too late. Some men, desperate for water, drank from the sea. Within hours, they started to lose their minds. The salt burned their throats and drove them insane. They began to see islands that weren't there, ships that didn't exist, loved ones calling their names. Some swam away, believing they saw land, and never came back. By the second day, the ocean grew quieter and more dangerous. Among the waves, we saw the first fin. I prayed it was a dolphin, but it wasn't. They were tiger sharks, more than 16 feet long, able to smell a single drop of blood from miles away. They are known to eat anything: turtles, fish, garbage, even metal. At first they just circled us, slow and calculating. Then they began to attack. They waited for someone to drift a little too far, then dragged him under in seconds. I watched them, methodical and patient. They knew exactly when to strike. At night, the water echoed with splashes and screams that lasted only moments, then silence, and another fin appeared. By the end of the second day, from our group of 80 men, fewer than 40 were still alive. By the third day, hunger and exhaustion were unbearable. We found a crate of rotten potatoes and shared them among us. It was disgusting, but it was all we had. The salt and sun burned my skin. My shoulders were stiff. My lips cracked open. Every movement hurt. Every hour felt endless. The seawater was driving us mad. I began hallucinating too. One day I swore I saw an island on the horizon. I shouted, begged the others to swim toward it. But there was nothing there. It was my mind, twisted by thirst and heat. Hours later, when I thought I was losing my sanity, I heard something, a faint hum in the distance. I thought it was another illusion, but then I looked up and I saw it, a patrol plane. For a moment, I refused to believe it. After all that time, my eyes had betrayed me too many times. But this time, it was real. The pilot had spotted an oil slick and came to investigate. What he found were bodies, debris, and a few men still alive. He broke orders and landed on the sea, risking his life to save us. He tied several men with ropes and dragged them behind the plane. Others clung to the wings, trembling and half-conscious. Even during the rescue, the sharks were still attacking. The pilot, Adrian Marks, later said he saw men being pulled underwater as he tried to lift others out. Hours later, the ship USS Doyle arrived and began picking up survivors. They pulled us out covered in oil, our skin burned by salt and sun. Of the 900 who survived the sinking, only 316 made it out alive. More than 500 died at sea, most from shark attacks, dehydration, or pure exhaustion. When they lifted me aboard, I could barely move, but I breathed, and I knew that against all odds, I had won the hardest battle of my life. It's easier to die than to live, but you must fight. I did it for my family, and for Ola May, the young woman who promised to wait for me. I returned home, we married, had 2 children, and shared 71 years together. I am Edgar Harrell, and I survived to tell.